What's up gamers, Cryptigo here, and welcome back to Lowering the Mark, a show where I analyze the current and former world records of Mario Kart 8 Deluxe time trial runs to see how these records get faster over time. We'll look at elements such as the loadout, racing lines, and mushroom usage to better understand what's bringing these times down. If you haven't already, please consider subscribing to my channel and hit the notification bell to be the first to know when my videos go live. For today's episode, we're going to take it all the way back to our first user-suggested course of the series and take a look at its faster run, Twisted Mansion at 200cc. On April 30th, 2017, the world record for this run was set at 1 minute 25.907 seconds by American player Hobby. Fast forward to March 18th, 2020, and the record was brought down to 1 minute 22.502 seconds by the English player Riz. That's a 3.4 second improvement between records and a 3.9% faster time. Our former world record holder Hobby has broken 26 world records across 2 unique runs, but has only clocked in a week of holding at least one world record. Perhaps even more surprising is our current world record holder Riz only having broken 4 world records on this course only and holding at least one of them for over 630 days. Truly a remarkable time trial performance in only 4 official runs. At pre-release, the world record had yet to be under 130, but that would change almost immediately after release, mostly thanks to Hobby and Doodle, who had pushed the pace so that record could get down under 125. Unbeknownst to the world, the next second break came a little over a month later when Mike B went on a little run and dropped a 123 for the first time. Soon after, English rivals Ryan 5 and Lee D93 went back and forth for the next 13 records in an attempt to bring the record down further. 122 was on the horizon, and it was the Dutch player Themo who got there first after dropping those last few tenths off Lee's former world record. From there, Army challenged him for a while before Riz would eventually drop nearly a tenth of a second off Themo's world record when it was likely considered to be the fastest possible time. In total, the record was broken 64 times by 15 different players. These loadouts are actually pretty well matched in terms of performance, but are also quite different as well. Hobby goes with the combo of Donkey Kong driving the Streetle with the rollers and the plane glider, while Riz goes with the untraditional combo of Wario driving the Yoshi bike with the button wheels and the paper glider. The reason these loadouts are so different despite their performance stats is the fact that the Streetle and Yoshi bike have different drifting mechanics. The Streetle kart drifts outwards while the Yoshi bike drifts inwards. In terms of performance, Riz leads in the top speed stat but surprisingly falls behind everywhere else. Hobby holds the advantage in nearly every stat, and that includes the half-point advantages in acceleration and mini-turbo stats, so it'll be interesting to see how Riz was able to shave so much time off Hobby's former world record. This map really does have it all: anti-grav sections, tight winding turns, a fish tank, and an overall spooky vibe as we prepare for Halloween 3 months early. At 150cc, it was interesting to see how these players ran the course, so it should be even more interesting to see how the players handle it at faster speeds. Hobby starts off with a rocket start and heads for the right anti-grav path where he'll grab a quick jump boost before setting up this drift through the library where he uses his first mushroom en route to a super mini turbo. Just before the fish tank, he grabs a quick mini turbo to close out S1. Riz uses his first mushroom right out of the gate and heads to the right for that same jump boost on the anti-grav path. Instead of taking the library cut, he just hits a long tight drift around the first turn, which results in the ultra mini turbo. He'll ride out all the way to the fish tank, but not before charging up another quick mini turbo. Now this is where it gets interesting. Riz's strat wasn't actually any faster. Hobby comes out ahead at the end of S1 where he leads by just over 0.2 of a second. Hobby chains a super and normal mini turbo through the first set of turns and picks up 5 coins in doing so. After the zigzag, he rides on a strict line before grabbing a quick mini turbo before heading on to the glider ramp. Riz has the same idea, but thanks to his inward drifting, he's able to thread through this zigzag super tight and still carry all that speed. He changed that with another mini turbo before hitting another one right before the glider ramp. This section was impressive because Riz was 0.4 of a second faster than Hobby through only 10 seconds of driving. That is a lot of time to make up in such a short interval, but it's nothing for Riz as he goes up by 0.2 of a second going into S3. After a jump boost off the glider, Hobby quickly adjusts himself so that he can land at just the right angle to brake drift around this sharp turn for the super mini turbo before cutting through this boo statue for another mini turbo to close out the lap. After a similar trick off the glider, Riz lines himself up for a super sharp turn and somehow doesn't need to brake drift at all around this tight squeeze. After the super mini turbo, he cuts around the back of the statue for the quick mini turbo to close out lap 1. We'll definitely need to take a closer look at the turn off that glider, but Riz has just shown that he can hit that turn without losing any speed, which is key to him building on this early lead to go up by 9/10 of a second after one lap. Both racers start off lap 2 by going to the right anti-grav path and hitting a jump boost before using their second mushroom to make the library cut. Hobby was able to get the super mini turbo while Riz grabs the ultra one before both racers make their way to the start of the fish tank, where Riz's lead has gone up to 1.2 seconds at the end of S1. Through S2, both players chain 2 mini turbos through the zigzag before heading down the right path for another tight mini turbo just before the glider. Riz was able to inch ahead because his line through those 2 turns was much more direct than Hobby, and his lead reflects that as he goes up by 1.5 seconds at the end of S2. Hobby comes off the glider ramp and quickly realigns himself for this awkward squeeze of a turn. He brake drifts a bit to grab the same super mini turbo from lap 1, then follows that up with the same normal mini turbo around the statue to close out the lap. Riz also has to realign himself right out of the glider ramp, but he's able to do so almost effortlessly. When he comes around the bend, he's able to start a drift and carry it over the small bit of grass he clips before the finish line. This is possible because of the minimal air he gets off this slightly elevated portion of the course. The mini turbo doesn't cancel, and he grabs the extra boost on a better line before coming across the finish line, leading by over 2.1 seconds after outsplitting Hobby by over 1.1 seconds. Here's the last lap at a glance because for both racers, it's the same as lap 2. Both racers start off the lap by bearing right for that single jump boost on the anti-grav platform before they line themselves up for one last library cut where Hobby grabs the super mini turbo and Riz grabs the ultra one. Once they make it to the fish tank, they'll grab the same super and normal mini turbos from the previous laps through the zigzag. After that, they'll take a tight turn on the right water path before hitting the glider ramp. Once in the air, they quickly adjust themselves before Hobby takes the brake drift assisted super mini turbo and Riz goes sicko mode and pulls off this impressive drift without losing any speed for the same super mini turbo, after which both players round the final turn and cross the finish line where Riz posted a time that was 3.4 seconds faster than Hobby's former world record. So by carrying more speed and using his inward drifting bike to take tighter lines, Riz was able to put up the 14th world record in the game's history to stand tall for over 500 days. It's quite an accomplishment to put up a record and have it last for this long, especially with all the talented players in the community bringing what feels like all the records down. Let's hear what Riz thinks about all that. What was going through your mind when you broke this world record?
I thought it was pretty cool as I had failed many times before and finally completed a run without failing.
What would you say is the hardest part of time trialing this course at 200cc?
The hardest part is probably the no item shortcut at the end. It's pretty inconsistent in my opinion.
There's nearly 0.2 of a second that can still be knocked off the world record time. Is the sum of the BKS close to a max world record, or could we see 0.2 at all?
I think the best known splits could definitely be stronger, but I really don't think a 0.2 will ever be reached. I could be wrong though.
Congrats on beating this world record and optimizing this run so well. Good luck on bringing the record down even further. The best known splits for this run show that as impressive as this record is, there is still quite a bit of time that can be knocked off. Riz owns all 3 of the best known splits, and each of his world record laps aren't any more than 5 frames away from them. Lap 1 is his most polished lap with less than 0.5 of a second that can still be knocked off, while laps 2 and 3 are just a frame or 2 further away from his world record laps. Even though Riz has held this record for over 500 days, there's been some activity within the community that could dethrone Riz sooner than we might realize. The worldwide top 10 consists of 8 national and 4 continental record holders. Riz sits at the top, almost a 10th back is American record holder Super Mario Karter, and just a hair behind him in 3rd is Themo. 4th and 5th place consist of fellow American Vincent and French record holder Army, who share just over 0.5 of a second of separation. The bottom 5 of this leaderboard share less than 1/10 of a second in separation and include popular names such as Australian record holder Henry, German record holder 3UP, 4 laps to win, EG, and Alberto. That top spot has been up for grabs for over 500 days now, and you'd think that if 2 players could get so close to the record, it's only a matter of time before Riz's reign comes to an end. But maybe so close is where the journey ends for these players, and they'll need to get used to Riz running the show for a little longer. Can't wait to find out. That's the end of episode 48. Hope you found it interesting. If you're a new viewer of this channel and enjoy this series, there's 47 other episodes just like it, and I'm sure you'd like those just as much as this one. If you enjoyed this video, like and share it with your friends, and comment on which course you'd like me to analyze next. Don't forget to subscribe, and I'll see you guys in the next one.